All right, folks, welcome back. It's time for the Malzberg panel, part 1. And joining us on the panel today, Jane Velez-Mitchell, founder of JaneUnchained.com and author of the New York Times bestseller, Exposed, The Secret Life of Jodi Arias. And in this corner, senior fellow at FreedomWorks, which you could check out at freedomworks.org, Tom Borelli. All right, let's start with Hillary. Gee, how many, if I had a nickel for every time I've said that name over the past few months or the past 2 days even. All right, it turns out now, and you know, you got to pick and choose what you're going to focus on with her, but the Wall Street Journal reporting today that when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, her staff, and Chief of Staff in particular, Cheryl Mills, scrutinized politically sensitive documents that were requested under FOIA, which is the Public Records Law, and sometimes blocked the release of records dealing with Bill Clinton's speeches or dealing with the Keystone XL pipeline. Jane, don't Americans have a right to see this information?
They absolutely do have a right, but this is standard operating procedure for all U.S. government agencies. I've been involved with lawyers seeking Freedom of Information Act information, and agencies routinely drag their feet. They don't give what they don't want to give, and sometimes you have to go to court to get it. So while Hillary may have engaged in this kind of foot dragging and using techniques to keep information out of hands of groups like Friends of the Earth, who were seeking information on her ties to a lobbyist for the Keystone Pipeline, and I think that's terrible if she's cozying up to lobbyists for the Keystone Pipeline. By the same token, every single agency does this. Every member of government does this. Our government is morally bankrupt. It's a jaded, cynical game at the taxpayer's expense.
But, Tom, not every person gets away with what Hillary has so far gotten away with legally. As a matter of fact, we just had Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch on, and he said the news to watch out for is not whether Hillary will win the primary, but whether or not she'll stay out of jail based on what he knows legally and what's been going on. I mean, these emails that she did hand over, printed up and handed over, were requested for over 2 years before she did. She was required to do it when she left. And then she erased from her private server, which she was told she wasn't supposed to use, what she felt like erasing. I mean, this isn't typical behavior. Other government employees could wind up in big trouble if they were to do this stuff.
No, absolutely. The Clintons, they set up their own rules, their own games. 2 sets of books, 2 sets of rules. And let's remember, President Obama promised the most transparent administration. Well,
he wasn't talking about his, as it turned out.
He set a low bar.
Another one.
And he set a low bar. Now, Hillary set an even a lower bar.
Right.
And this is the people's right to know what's going on. She has a political operatives going over what she considers sensitive because she wants to run for president. Now she's running for president. And my God, she can't let people know that the State Department was actually considering approving the Keystone XL pipeline because billionaire investors like Tom Steyer, a big donor, big climate change activist, would not give her money.
But I thought there were only billionaires on the right, like the Koch brothers.
No, Steve, don't be confused.
Wow.
Don't be confused.
All right, now let's move on, and Jane, I want to hit you with this. Here's another situation. Sidney Blumenthal was denied employment in the State Department by the Obama administration when Hillary was the Secretary of State. So what happens? She has a personal account. He has the account. He starts communicating with her by email and talking about Benghazi and allegedly, according to the reports, situations that could benefit him personally. She corresponds back with him. I mean, about Benghazi, for crying out loud. I mean, he has no business communicating with the Secretary of State, especially after the Obama administration said he can't work in the State Department.
Listen, Republicans are just using that word over and over again. Benghazi, 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 beating that drum doesn't mean that the American voters are going to like the song. I mean, it really isn't resonating with people. If you want to talk about conflict of interest.
How does that resonate?
Okay, how about Halliburton for conflict of interest?
Halliburton.
I mean, come on.
Halliburton.
Okay.
All right, folks, welcome back. I understand we were so involved in our heated debate in the previous segment on the Malzberg panel that we got cut off by the computer. Well, sorry about that. We were talking a little bit about Sid Vicious, Sidney Blumenthal, and now the Benghazi committee is going to call Sid Blumenthal before it, and that should be very, very interesting. I want to talk a little bit about Syria, and you know, we haven't heard much about the chemical weapons. Remember, Obama drew the red line and said if Assad uses chemical weapons, then he did, and then he didn't care. He didn't do anything. The red line was drawn and then erased. Well, now we have many reports of VX and ricin being used in barrel bombs. So the issue is now relevant once again, Tom. And of course, we'd all be shocked and pass out if Obama actually did anything about it. We're a paper tiger. This guy draws lines in the sand and then does nothing.
Right, we're down to the rainbow. We started with red, now we're down to invisible. I mean, it's really a dangerous time when nobody's afraid of America and nobody can trust the President of the United States. So it's just utter chaos, and that's why we're seeing what's going on right now in Iraq. They took over Ramadi. I mean, this is exactly what we had to fear. He has been, I think he's going to go down in history as probably one of the worst presidents, especially on foreign policy.
I think we should make a coin, Jane, two-sided, one with Jimmy Carter on it and one with Barack Obama on it.
Well, I think we used up our political capital by invading a country under false pretenses that there were weapons of mass destruction when they weren't. Had we not done that and not created the poisoned atmosphere, we might have had the political capital to do something about Assad and the chemical weapons. But because of that disastrous war in Iraq,
So wait. So when Obama made this statement a few years ago, drew a red line, he thought we had the capital, or he really intended to do something, or he just was, if you like your health care, you could keep it, just lying through his teeth?
I'm not saying he's blameless. I don't think you should make threats that you can't carry through. But I think the big disaster was invading a country that did not have weapons of mass destruction, saying it did.
A bigger disaster is pulling all the troops out and then let ISIS
After
run
the
wild.
surge, right.
That's a biggest, because you inherited a relatively stable Iraq, and then you pulled the troops out, and now we have utter chaos.
Even Andrea Mitchell today said that Obama had little interest, I don't want to misquote her, but little interest in coming to a status of force agreement, and didn't care that they had high demands. He just backed off, said we couldn't reach agreement, and that was his excuse to pull out the troops. But I'll tell you what does get under Obama's skin, and what does drive his passion. No, it's not dead Christians. No, it's not dead Jews. No, it's not dead cops. He was speaking at the Coast Guard, I believe, graduation commencement ceremony today, and he talked about one of the greatest threats to our national security and to the world's security. Guess what it is, ladies and gentlemen? It's not having your head cut off if you're a Christian or a Jew or whatever. It's climate change. That's right. Now, if we listened to Al Gore, Jane, we'd all be underwater by now, because when he was predicting that in 5 years the seas will rise, and he even told us how high they'd rise, we'd all be underwater in Manhattan by now if he was right.
Please,
Enough
they've got
with
a
the climate
drought
change.
in California. There's fires everywhere in Texas. There's floods down in South Miami. Is going to be underwater. New York is getting colder and colder. Climate change is real. I was in San Antonio, Texas, and it was so hot we couldn't even go to the Alamo. Everything is going to be destroyed if we don't deal with climate change.
Oh, my God.
It's absolutely our biggest
Oh, my God,
threat.
really?
Then maybe you could explain why the Earth hasn't increased in its temperature in the last
please.
18 years.
That reminds
why
me.
hasn't that happened?
Ted Cruz says climate change doesn't exist
Read
because
the data.
I saw snow
Satellite
this winter.
data says
Come
hasn't
on.
been increased in
90%
18
of the
years.
scientists say
Read
climate
the
change is
data.
real.
That's what'd you say, 90 what?
At least 90% of the scientists
No,
say
that's
climate change
absolutely
is
untrue.
real.
I'd love to see one day. Wait.
The ice caps are melting.
No, they're not.
No,
They're
I'd
not.
love to see somebody draw up the list of all the scientists who say there is global warming, or whatever you guys call it now, because you failed with, in the 70s, the Ice Age was coming. That's what Time Magazine and all the magazines said. Then you went to global warming, and on the floor of the Senate, Barbara Boxer in about 2010 said, there's never going to be snow again.
Is
What
there
if the
not
ski
a drought
resorts
in
won't have snow?
California?
Has
Is
nothing-
there not a drought in
That has
California?
nothing to do with climate change.
It's because of the fact, in great part, that the water is redirected and denied because to save the little earthworms
Right,
and all
right.
these stupid species.
Oh,
fish, right.
Crying
stupid
out loud.
species.
Yeah, stupid
This
species.
is the stupid species, the human species.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
you just revealed what lots of leftists actually believe, that they'd rather save
We're
a worm
stupid.
than a human being.
No, we're stupid because we're being self-destructive. If we don't have a planet, we have nothing.
Oh, stop!
we're not gonna have
If
a
we did
planet?
if
We
we
could
did
all go to Mars.
if we did what the EPA wants to do,
Or
it's not
Madison
going to
Square
affect
Garden.
any of the, because
Listen,
China's doing what they want
If
to
we
do.
hadn't killed the electric car in the 90s, we wouldn't have to be building the
No one
Keystone
wants the
XL
electric car.
I want an
Wait a
electric
minute,
Buy it
car.
then.
Wait, who killed it? You could go buy one.
No, they killed it in the 90s. We could have had
GM
all the technology that Toyota Prius had
GM just
back
stopped
in the
making
mid-90s.
the Volt because nobody wants to buy it.
No. In fact, the head of GM admitted it was his greatest mistake, and I was just in
Of
Detroit,
halting the
and it
Volt.
was his greatest mistake.
Then why aren't they building it? They didn't there to make money. If it was a moneymaker, they'd build it. Nobody
There's
wants
no
it.
demand for
Short-term
them. You know what the
thinking.
biggest selling cars are? The big
That's
trucks
right.
again. The big cars.
Give me
That's
my
what
Escalade.
people
Those
want.
are contributing to climate
Jane
change.
Velez-Mitchell and Tom Borelli, thank you. We're coming back with Hank Shenko.